At today's cotton prices, every Texas farmer is losing money before the first bale leaves the field. The state that once powered half the nation's supply now faces a gap no amount of efficiency can bridge. Production costs are up to 97 cents a pound, while market prices have collapsed to just 66 cents a pound. If the backbone of American cotton is buckling in West Texas, what chain reaction is the governor so desperate to stop? And how did it come to this? The numbers behind the Texas cotton crisis leave no room for doubt. In 2025, the cost to produce a pound of cotton in West Texas ranges from 68 to 97 cents, depending on whether a farmer relies on dry land or irrigation. But the market sets the price, not the grower. In 2025, the price has collapsed to just 66 cents per pound. Even the most efficient operations face a break-even of 82 to 90 cents per pound, according to Texas A&M AgriLife budgets and local lenders. That means every pound harvested locks in a loss, at least 20 to 24 cents below what it takes to stay afloat. The math is relentless. A decade ago, cotton prices hovered near 85 cents. Now, they have fallen nearly 20 cents in less than a year. Adjusted for inflation, the value of a pound of cotton is lower than it was 60 years ago, even as the costs to grow it have soared. Since the mid-1960s, the price of farm chemicals has quadrupled, and machinery expenses have jumped sixfold. A bag of seed that once cost $30 now approaches $400, and new equipment can run to $500,000 or more. No amount of efficiency can erase a 20-cent gap on every pound. For Texas cotton producers, the economic foundation has cracked. The numbers are clear. The cost of survival now outpaces the reward for growing the crop. Texas stands at the center of American cotton, responsible for more than 40% of the country's entire crop. Nowhere is this dominance more visible than the Lubbock region, often called the nation's largest cotton patch. In a typical year, these fields would yield around 3.7 million bales, supporting not only local economies, but the broader supply chain that stretches across the South and beyond. But in recent seasons, the numbers have collapsed. Recent USDA production tables show that West Texas managed just 1.3 to 1.5 million bales, less than half of what was once expected. The land itself is shrinking from cotton. 1 million fewer acres are planted in 2025 compared to the recent 3-year average, and that loss is not spread evenly across the country. It is concentrated here in the counties surrounding Lubbock, where cotton is more than a crop. It is the backbone of entire communities. A county extension agent who has spent decades working with growers across the High Plains describes the situation as unprecedented. He points to maps showing how the heart of America's cotton production has contracted, with vast stretches of farmland left fallow or converted to other uses. The math is not just a spreadsheet problem. It is visible in every empty field and every idle gin. As the region's share of national output shrinks, the risk to the entire U.S. supply chain grows. The fate of American cotton now rests on a single region, facing losses on a scale never seen before. Drought has rewritten the map of West Texas cotton. In 2022, nearly half the state's cotton crop, 49%, was abandoned in the fields and never harvested. The following years brought little relief, with abandonment rates of 33% and 34% in 2023 and 2024. The losses stretch far beyond the farm gate. Texas agriculture suffered $3.4 billion in 2024 alone, and cotton accounted for $1.8 billion of that total. The numbers are not just abstract. According to NOAA and USDA data, 68% of Texas land is now classified as drought affected, In almost a third of the state, 29%, faces conditions labeled as extreme drought. The impact is direct and devastating. 2/3 of all agricultural losses in Texas in 2024 were attributed to drought and relentless heat. These figures are not isolated blips. They represent a sustained pattern of weather-driven failure, with entire regions losing their capacity to produce cotton at any scale. The weather has become the single most powerful force shaping the fate of Texas cotton, leaving fields unpicked and the state's agricultural economy exposed to unprecedented risk. The collapse of Texas cotton ripples far beyond the fields. Since 1998, half the cotton gins across the region have shuttered their doors. The Texas Cotton Ginners Association warns that once a gin closes, it rarely reopens. The cost to restart is prohibitive, and without a steady stream of bales, even the most historic facilities sit idle, their machinery gathering dust. In towns like Brownfield and La Mesa, the effects are unmistakable. Main streets that once thrived during harvest now see empty storefronts and boarded-up warehouses. Local merchants, such as seed dealers, parts suppliers, and independent warehouses, are closing alongside the gins, leaving fewer places for farmers to do business. In Lubbock, agriculture makes up a quarter of the local economy. The city's identity is tied to cotton, and every lost acre reverberates through restaurants, banks, and trucking companies. As more gins and warehouses disappear, the economic backbone of these communities weakens. The closures are not temporary setbacks. Each lost facility signals a permanent contraction, with no guarantee that the infrastructure will return, even if the rains do. For many West Texas towns, the unraveling of cotton's infrastructure is not just a sign of hard times. It is a warning that the foundation of rural life may be slipping away for good. 45 years in the fields have not prepared some Texas cotton farmers for a year like this. One veteran, whose family has weathered droughts and price crashes since the 1970s, calls 2025 the worst he has ever seen. The pain runs deeper than numbers. In Floyd County, a sixth-generation family faces the end of a legacy. Their land, passed down since the days of horse-drawn plows, may not survive to see a seventh. The youngest member, after watching 3 consecutive years of loss, has left the farm for a job at the local dairy. He says he cannot see a future in cotton. A fourth-generation grower from Lockney quietly sold his equipment and walked away, breaking a line that stretched back more than 100 years. Another man, with 32 seasons behind him, worries each night that his son, fresh out of college and eager to help, has chosen a path with no tomorrow. These stories echo across the plains. According to the CDC, suicide rates among farmers are 3.5 times higher than the national average. Plains cotton growers responded by adding mental health sessions to their annual meeting, a step once unthinkable in a community that prided itself on stoicism. Behind every abandoned field is a family weighing impossible choices, and a question that haunts rural Texas: how much longer can they hold on? Regional lenders across West Texas are facing a wave of loan defaults not seen in decades. Farm debt nationwide has soared to $561.8 billion, and interest rates on operating loans have doubled since 2021. For the first time, multi-generational cotton farms are being denied the credit lines they once took for granted. Lenders report that a growing share of family operations now fail to qualify for the same level of annual financing, with some banks quietly warning that 2025 may be the last year for many. The Texas Department of Agriculture confirms that the state has lost nearly 20,000 farms since 2017, and USDA records show a staggering loss of 9 million acres of farmland over the past quarter century. Inside USDA Region 6, which oversees Texas disaster relief, the pressure is acute. Congress approved nearly $10 billion in new agricultural disaster AED in December 2024. But as the new planting season began, thousands of producers still waited for checks. The aid, when it does arrive, is designed to stabilize balance sheets, not restore profitability. Meanwhile, the number of young farmers exiting the industry continues to climb, and cotton acreage sits at a 10-year national low. Regional lenders and policy advocates have delivered 3 urgent asks to decision makers. First, expedite the release of disaster payments within 30 days. Second, authorize temporary credit forbearance on operating loans. Third, direct emergency mental health funding to rural counties. Without immediate action, the financial machinery that underpins Texas cotton will grind to a halt, leaving the future of the industry in doubt. Right now, Texas cotton towns face a future with fewer farmers, shuttered gins, and vanishing legacies. When nearly half of the nation's cotton comes from fields that are losing money, the crisis is not just local, it is a warning. The cost of inaction is written in every abandoned acre. What happens here shapes us all.